How do you get a job that gets you into uni? If you're applying to university, this question will be high up in your minds because there's loads of ways to get experiences that help you when you're writing your personal statement and impress admissions tutors, but it also be nice to be paid for it all at the same time. So with this in mind, I am going to interview Leah Stewart today, who is a recruitment specialist. My name is Lucy Parsons and I blog at lifemoreextraordinary.com, helping you to get into university and to get the top grades in your exams. So, Leah, can you tell us a little bit, first of all, about your experience in helping people to get really good jobs?
Absolutely. So yeah, we originally met, or one of the early interviews we did was where you looked through my personal statement, and on there was so many jobs, so many different avenues of work experience that impressed a lot of actually all of the places that I applied to uni for. As a student, I was very much into figuring out how to apply really well, and that was part of my own personal interests. But I didn't know why it worked until I ended up in recruitment. So I spent several years working in recruitment with people who have graduated from university, but across the career span and actually across internationally, different disciplines and things like that. So it was through that experience that I understood why things I was doing worked from the recruitment perspective. And so for a while now, I've been working with individuals who are looking usually for something outside of the linear line, so usually a career change or a next step or something they're nervous about, and they want to create an application that helps them shine. So that's what I'm doing now in terms of applications.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll focus really in on how to help people who are applying to university to get a job. So, with the summer holidays coming up, how do you choose, or how does somebody who's applying to university choose which summer jobs to apply for that will help them to develop skills that they need for the university course that they want to apply to, and to give evidence that they've developed the necessary skills to be successful in that application for that course?
Great question. And there's a lot in there. And first of all, I'd like to say that there will be some people watching this who are probably, maybe in a small village who feel like, hey, I can't choose. There's not really many jobs
Yeah.
going around, summer jobs. And just to reassure you, that's the situation I was in. I was in a tiny little village, and you two, yeah, miles away from the town, miles away from the city. And the approach there, I'll sort of touch on this, the approach there is to really become part of the community. There's a few things I'll pick up on there. If you happen to be in a city where there are more kind of obvious options, then it sort of depends on which universities you're looking to go for. If you're going to go for the top universities, as in Oxford or Cambridge, something that they really value, which I found out really in an interview, is the ability to be verbal about the thing that you're interested in. So to talk fluently about your subject. So if you can go for experience that helps you get that, especially if it's not something you're strong at, because at school there's a lot of focus on writing, of course. So if you've got your own time, if you've got your own choice and you want to go for those higher universities, try and find something that builds up your confidence and fluency on that field, on that topic of interest.
So you should be looking for something that gives you experience in talking about the subject that you're applying for.
If that's something that, if that's, if you're going for the top universities, yes, and if it's something that you're really interested in, and if it's something you're weak in, I was always weak on that. I could write very well, but if, bearing in mind that after the application stage there's an interview, that's what they'll be looking for there. So apart from that, if you're kind of just wanting something for, in general, a lot of the other universities, the thing they look for, and this was pulled out of my personal statement, was we want to know that you're going to show up and do the work. And so if you get a summer job and you show up and you do the work, and maybe that turns into a part-time job for the next year of school, that shows that you have a level of commitment, level of time, organization. To go beyond that, to try and look at, again, I I'd love to go to individual examples. If someone's got a specific situation they want to talk with me about, that's totally fine. But to go beyond that, I thought we could split it into kind of 3 sections. So in terms of money, and we're talking about it's great to get paid, of course it is. A good thing to think about is whether you need money, as in you can't buy books and you need to earn money, and you're not maybe getting help from parents. If you need money, and if you know you'll need money while you're in uni, really great tip is to look for positions in kind of chain stores or chain things. This is something I didn't do. I worked in the local newsagents, £3 an hour. It was a great job. It was perfect for me. It was really small. It was really quiet. But when I got to uni a few months in, I realized, oh no, I need to be earning money here. I can't support myself. And I found it hard to get into a job there until I went into the Guild of Students, which is a great place to look if you're struggling at uni. But if I had thought about this beforehand, I'd have probably got a role in kind of a national, like nationwide kind of company. So you're talking about the chains, and look to get a transfer when you go to uni. So it's something thinking long term to maybe think about now. If you just want money, like if you just want a bit more independence, and by the way, this isn't about your own economical situation, this is about your interest, your choices. So if you want money to kind of spend on experiences, and this is something that came out in my personal statement, I'd done an archaeology dig, which I paid for with the money that I earned from like babysitting, from work in the shop and things like that. I've been on an expedition, which my money kind of helped make that happen as well. So if you want that, then I'd say more than the local jobs, think about kind of community type work. But by that, I mean, you can earn more and have more flexibility by doing things like pet sitting, babysitting, that kind of thing. And so if that's something you're thinking about, be aware of how you appear to the people in your community. Be aware of how parents of young children see you. Do you dress well? Do you talk politely? Are you seen at community events? And that's kind of how you can get known. And there's people next door to me who I'd always babysit their son, for example, when they went away, and it's great because you can go there, you can bring your homework. Once the kid's in bed, you can do your work and you're earning at the same time, and that is money that you can direct towards things that will enhance your personal statement that you can't get other way. So really cool things like the archaeology dig and things like that, adventurous things. And then finally, if you don't care about money, if you don't need to earn it or anything like that, then I would advise you to think really about how you can make connections with people in the field that you care about. So this is thinking longer term and big picture, because when you finish uni, and I've seen this with a lot of students that I work with on their CV editing, when they finish uni, they haven't made the connections with the people in the industry, so they're starting from scratch all over again. So if money isn't a thing that you need to worry about at all, create something that is yours, so a free blog or something like this. Create your own project, own that, and start connecting with people who are leading that field, academics, see what they think about it, and do that in a certain way, and that can lead to paid and commissioned work of its own right. It's a longer term game, but that's another way of thinking about it. So I hope that kind of answers that question in a broad way. Quick final point, you said about evidence. For those watching it, take responsibility of keeping your own evidence. So don't leave that to someone else. And especially if you're in the chain kind of store situation where you're working there and everyone kind of knows what they do, especially then, if something happens, if a situation goes on, and you have, with your own strengths and your own skills, helped resolve that, please make a note of that story. And I'll come back to...
In terms of evidence, like keeping a notebook and just jotting down, like, experiences that you've had, responsibilities that you've had, situations you've dealt with, all that is tough.
Experiences, responsibilities, but especially the situations, because the thing is, if you're kind of a customer assistant in, I don't know, some store, people generally know what a customer assistant in the store does, so it doesn't really help on your CV to list those things. But if you can say, this is the one situation that I resolved because I communicated in this way that eased the tensions, that solved it, that's something that really stands out in application because it's a story. So it's a tweet length story, basically.
Yeah.
If you can keep notes of those, then you don't have to remember them by the time you're coming to create a personal statement. And they're just there, so you can get on to creating that statement in a really good way. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So really, in terms of that question, it's about showing that you've got personal skills and attributes that will be attractive to admissions tutors, and you can do that through having a part-time job. So firstly, turning up on time, being reliable, but then things like interpersonal skills through resolving situations, or that you can manage money responsibly, or things like that, and making those, when you come to write your personal statement, applicable
Yeah.
to the subject that you want to study.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's a whole bunch of angles, a whole bunch of levels to go at it. The most basic one is I can hold down a job, I'm responsible. The most highest level one is, hey, I created my own project and connected with this person in the field who you know because they're famous and
Yeah.
they got me to work with them on this project. That's what I did with my summer, and that would be very impressive. So there's all these different levels, but whatever level you work at, you can turn that into something valuable in a personal statement and towards an interview, towards a university application.
Fantastic. Okay. So what advice have you got about making a compelling job application or writing a CV that really gets you the job?
Okay, I love this. And what I'm going to share here is the main thing that I correct on, well, more than correct, I work on it with the clients who give me their applications to look at. It's one of the most common things. But very quickly first, you said CV that gets you the job. Very quick thing, CVs and applications, they get you the interview. The
Yes.
interview gets you the job. So always bear that in mind. So many people kind of make the leap to getting the job. And that means that you look at the application in a way that probably isn't very helpful. And actually on my CV editing website, there's a bit of a video there which I've got to kind of help people separate these two things in their heads. But the most common edit I make, and for those watching this, have a look at what you've got if you've done a CV or an application or anything, and see if you lead with any of these kinds of comments. So begin with any of these sorts of things about saying, I'm delighted to apply for, this role, this amazing opportunity with your brilliant company. I have all the required experience, and getting this would help me because, and then you tell them why it would help you, and these are my skills, and then you list the skills, right? Does that sounds like quite common, doesn't
Yeah.
it? That's what so many people do, right? And the reason that is unextraordinary and uncompelling is because, and it takes kind of getting out of your own head and going into the head of the person receiving it to see this. You've put out a job application, you say get 20 applicants, and they're all beginning with these sorts of sentences that are like, I have, I want this, and I get it, because when you're writing an application, it's a scary experience, so you have to kind of build up your confidence to write it. And so that's kind of where these things spill out, especially at the beginning of an application. But from the person receiving it, they honestly, right, think about this, it's completely obvious. They don't care about the applicant. They don't care about you. They don't care about you being delighted to apply. They don't care about this being an amazing opportunity. They know it. They're told that all the time. If you say you've got the required experience, that's fine, but it's not helpful, because what I need reading it is I need evidence quickly that you have required experience. You telling me that doesn't give me anything. And telling me why this would help you on your adventures means nothing unless I'm already bought into you being able to help me.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So that's the main thing that I change is with applications. Begin from the perspective of the person who's going to receive it, and show them why you can bring something real to this role. And then, with the lists of skills, I see this quite a lot again on students, on university students, school students applications, that you kind of list skills. Oh, I'm a good communicator, I'm a good team player, and things like this. This is where I come back to those stories that I mentioned earlier. Hook them whenever you say a skill. If you leave it like that, it means nothing. Anyone can say they're a good communicator. But if you then write after that a very short example of when you have communicated that has solved something,
Yeah.
and like I say, tweet size, it doesn't have to be a long story, but just something that pins it down in reality, then it's more believable and you seem more authentic and the person buys into you. And at
Yeah.
that point, you can tell them why you applying for this job now makes sense.
Yes.
And that's
So
when they care.
yeah, so it's all about them, not you. It's all about the person who you're applying for and how your skills make you appropriate to help them with the problem that they've got. And the problem that they've got is that they haven't got anybody as yet to fill the job that's available. So that's how it works. And I
Yeah.
think that thing about evidence is a bit like writing an English essay, where like if you make a point in an English essay, you then back it up with a quote, which is the evidence from the text. So it's thinking about it in that same kind of way. You're always looking
Yeah.
for evidence.
That's
Yeah.
a really good example. I think when people write about themselves, there is a nervousness there. And that's why this is hard. And that's why I work with individuals, because there's a nervousness there. And of course, because you know yourself, and especially when you show it with friends and family, they know you. So they're like, yeah, yeah, of course, this is true, but it's not evidenced.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can always think about this as you would an English essay,
Yeah.
and kind of separate yourself a bit, that would be really helpful. Yeah, it's a great way of thinking about it.
Fantastic. Okay, so last question here. What are your top three do's and don'ts for job interviews?
Okay, brilliant. I'm gonna go big picture here. So if you want, like, you've got to dress well and shake their hand and things like this, and you can find that on Google. Like, I don't do that stuff. That's, to me, that's kind of basic. Yeah. So I'm gonna go big picture. So the first one is about perspective. And this will kind of keep you all right longer term as well, because if something doesn't happen, I've seen you speak about this elsewhere actually, Lucy, if something doesn't work out, trust in that decision. Trust that that decision was the right one for you, for that moment, for that situation. And I'll bring something else into this from my experience in recruitment, where I've worked with lots of companies, and they have their amazing websites that say how great they are, and they put these job applications out that say how great the job is and all of this. The reality of working in most companies is different to what they say on their website and what they say on job applications, okay? And that's the truth. And the only person who knows what the reality of working in that company is usually the person who's interviewing you. And so if they look at you and they get to know your interview and they say, this isn't for you, trust that, because you don't have that knowledge of what it's like in that company. And every company has things to work on, and usually what they're looking for is someone who can come in and be okay with what's going on and somehow help it evolve. And you might not be that person, so just bear in mind what you don't know. So that's perspective. That's the first one.
Okay.
That one only bites if you know that what they saw of you in interview wasn't the real you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then you get the rejection letter and you get maybe the feedback, and you look at it and you show your friends, you show your family, and they go, that's not you. The person they rejected wasn't even you. They never even got to see who you are. And so they've made this decision, in your best interest, but in the best interest of the person they saw, which wasn't you, because you weren't authentic. So that's a really big tip for interviews, is to bring your authenticity. And we talked about this actually in the video last time we spoke on we recorded it on Skype about university applications. Be authentic. It happened to me again after that in an assessment day, where the feedback was not me at all, and the people I'd worked with were like, yeah, you'd be really good at this role, but that's just what happens. And the reason is that in both those situations, I thought that, and maybe people watching this will kind of relate to this feeling, I thought that kind of job interview, that university interview, I thought that was my only good option. And I thought that if I failed that I would be embarrassed, and that, I had no other options. This was the path. And it's never the only path. But I think sometimes when you're through the school system, certain paths are inflated, and you forget that there are so many more options. And what interestingly can happen, I'll really quickly share this, what can happen with this authenticity thing is because you are less nervous about like your B path, your kind of secondary path, you tend to get those jobs. And that's kind of what happened with me in recruitment. I was like a first class science graduate and I ended up in recruitment. And I wasn't nervous at all in that interview. I was myself. I thought, I do a really great job and would develop, and all that happened. But it was never the thing I really wanted to do. But I never got the things I really wanted to do because I was so nervous in those selections. And what I've seen can happen over time, what I saw it with myself and what I see it with university students, is that this over time, without realizing it's the authenticity thing, is you believe that actually a second-rate version of your life is the one that you can get. Your kind of dreams, your ambitions deflate. And especially with university students, I tend to see this. They finish and they say, I just need a job. I just get me any job. And so I show them that they can get any job. And then they tell me what they really want because they've believed until that point that they might not even get a job. So it's the authenticity trick. Okay, so my third top do is going to help you with this. And that's about grit. And I say that with like gritted teeth because when I first heard about this, I hated it. I was like the student who worked super hard and realizing that people are going into schools and telling students they need to work hard. I was like, honestly, that makes me work harder and moves me into like anxiety and burnout and things like this. I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. But I follow the psychology podcast. So the lady who does this research called Angela Duckworth, she was interviewed fairly recently in the psychology podcast where she clarified how her definition of grit has evolved and where it's at now. And what she said made me so happy because it completely helps resolve this issue with authenticity. So I'll quickly share this. So for those of you who are looking at interviews, I want you to bear in mind that an interview is not an end goal, and whatever you get from the interview is probably not your ultimate end goal. And what she said, her definition of grit is more about being gritty about this ultimate thing that you really, really want and being flexible about the tactics to get there. So a tactic is writing an application. A tactic is going for an interview at a particular institution or for a particular role. Those are tactics, those are low-level things, and the people who are gritty, they hold to what they really want and they are flexible about all these other things. So if that, hopefully if you see that, you'll realize that whatever you go into, these things that you really want, if it doesn't happen, it's not the only way. And so hopefully that will make you feel more calm, and then they'll be able to see the authentic you, and then they'll be able to make an actual judgment, a proper judgment as to whether you'll be suitable in that role or not. To kind of get to your why, it took me a while, but the really good way of doing it, super quick, is to think about something you do that no one tells you to do. No, there's no kind of structure around it. So I wouldn't even say, oh, I chose this at A level. I'd say, is there something you do outside of school, outside of all the frameworks of everything that you just do for pure fun? And for me, I found myself doing this when I was in the recruitment role and I was going to the library and I was reading about education.
Okay.
I was telling myself, I had that voice in my head going, why are you doing this? You're in recruitment. You should be like reading about recruitment and stuff. But I was like, no, I'm enjoying this. And if I took that judgment off and I asked myself, why are you reading this? And then my answer was, well, I find this interesting. I want to understand what was out there in education while I was being educated. Why do you want to do that? Well, because I want to, if I understand it, then maybe I can help things and improve things. And in a way, that's my kind of, my thing I'm going to be gritty about. But all the other things, like meeting amazing people like Lucy and doing interviews like this, these are all kind of lower level tactics, which if this didn't happen, I'd have met other people and been doing other things, but it would have all still been for that. So the way to do it is ask yourself why, beginning with something you do that no one compels you to do, and then you go down to the tactics by asking how, and that may end up, it may or may not end up with you applying for a job, but knowing that whatever happens, that's one tactic of many that you can do. So yeah, that was perspective, authenticity, grit, my top three.
Fantastic. Well, that's been absolutely great, Leah. There's some really good insights there on just kind of having the right perspective on how to get these jobs. And, actually, it's not really that important which jobs you get. It's about showcasing the actual skills that you've developed through doing those jobs. So it doesn't matter if you're babysitting or gardening or working in a clothes shop. It doesn't matter, so long as you're showcasing and developing useful skills that the universities will be looking for when you write your personal statement. Okay, Leah, where can people go if they'd like to find out more about you and maybe seek more of your help with applying for jobs?
Yeah, so in terms of looking at individual examples, so say you're like, oh, I want to apply for this job, or I've got this CV and this is the application, or I want to put a poster up or a flyer around my community to say I'm available for this kind of work, and I want someone to just quickly check it, then I'm more than happy to do that. Just contact me via my CV editing kind of mini website. So that's leahkstewart.com/CV editing.
Okay, I'll link to that underneath the video.
Awesome. Yeah, so just pop there. There's an interesting video on there, and there's a little contact me box, and we can just, I'll have a look at whatever you send me and throw some advice back. If you feel like you want to explore more of a kind of broader picture project, look at connecting with people who are like advancing the field, get known by them, and maybe look at that, so longer picture income and also connections and things like that, and you want to see how to begin there, then a good place to go is my about page, so leahkstewart.com/about, and if you join up there, there's a 15-minute video of where to begin and how to get started. So yeah, that's
it's a good video. I recommend that if you do to start getting into a particular field and get known, and maybe that's really useful if you're more interested in careers that don't have an obvious way into them, so like journalism or some of those more, or advertising, some of those more kind of artsy things that don't natural kind of way in.
If you're creatively inclined, definitely. I've also recently done a consultation with a student who, you'd have really liked him. He was there going, I don't know, law or finance. And actually the solution that we came to in the consultation was for him to create his own project on the part of law that interested him and connecting with people there, because he found that he had a real, he resonated with lawyers in a certain way. So he's kind of taken that and launched that. It's amazing. So yeah, it's certainly creatives, but also people who want to think really deeply and make real connections in the area they're looking to go into.
Fantastic. Well, that's been absolutely wonderful, Leah. There's some absolute gems of advice in there. So if you've got any questions for me or Leah, then just leave them in the comments below. And shortly coming up, this is being recorded in June 2016. At the end of the month, I'm going to be holding a workshop, a free live workshop, which is going to help you with more aspects of how to write your personal statement, and I'll link up how to sign up for that in the blog post as well. So thank you ever so much, Leah. This has been Lucy Parsons from lifemoreextraordinary.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye.
Now pause that. Awesome.
Done.